Beyond the Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick, Taylor Riggs, Gina Martin Adams in here, counting you down to the closing bell, and it'll help take us beyond the bell. It's our global simulcast with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec. We welcome our audiences across Bloomberg Television, Radio, and YouTube. And Carol, we started this morning, of course, off with that jobs data. And I guess there was a little bit of something in there for everyone, but overall, it seems people are taking it as a, positive signal.
Yeah, I certainly feel like we're seeing that in the last few minutes of trading, right? Again, we're seeing some buying on this first day of the second quarter, seeing us move up to pretty much our highs, it looks like, on both the S&P and the Dow. You like to watch the small caps, Romaine. I do too, and we're seeing the small cap outperformance once again in today's trade, up almost 1% on the Russell 2000.
Yeah, but not a ton of conviction today overall in the S&P 500. Kind of choppy. Trading within a relatively tight range. In fact, the S&P 500 moved between gains and losses 11 times in today's session.
You wonder how much of that, again, comes on big economic data day, big economic data week, of course, jobs day. But then you push forward, Gina, to just the moves in the bond yields. And I saw an 18 basis point move on the week, and you think that that's big. And then you're like, oh, we're already coming off of last week's moves, which you'd already seen a 30 basis point move higher in yields. 4 straight weeks of yields moving higher. This has been a huge rate of change.
It has been a huge rate of change, and it certainly has created a lot of nervousness in the equity market and the broader financial markets. You know, there's not a minute that goes by in the day that we don't talk about the yield curve signal and what it means for a potential recession going forward in 2023, 2024, whatever it may be. And that's starting to get reflected in confidence levels at large.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we're getting the closing bells here in New York on this Friday afternoon. The Dow Jones Industrial Average going to finish the day up of roughly about 100 points, 140 points or so as we wait for these numbers to settle. That's basically good for about 0.4%, though the Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish down on a weekly basis by about 0.1%. The S&P higher on the day and going to be slightly higher on the week, just fractionally, 0.3% on the day, about 0.1% on the week. The NASDAQ Composite higher by about 41 points or 0.3% on the day and about 0.7% on the week. There's your Russell 2000. It's higher by about 1% on the day. That's your outperformer here on the day. We should point out, not on the board there, but bank stocks and a lot of the tech stocks really took it hard. Bank stocks down about 6-7% on the week, as is the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, which is down about 5% on the week, Carol.
Yeah, and just watching the VIX volatility index down about a point today and about a point for the week overall. So we did see some movement throughout the week, Taylor.
I think what is so interesting, Carol, is putting all of that in together, right? Some of the calmness within the volatility, but as Romaine was mentioning, it was technology and banks that are really getting hit hard. That's actually where I want to go next. We're going to do the reverse of this and look at some of the losers here on the bottom of the screen. I know for the radio audience, typically when I talk about the sector winners and the sector losers, we start with green, but it is so notable here where it is technology, banks, semiconductors that are all off anywhere of up to 2% on the day. So certainly seeing that pain today. Frankly, Carol, everything else is mostly green on the screen. It doesn't really feel broad-based, but at least here on this sector level, there's a lot of green. But it does feel defensive. It's utilities, it's household products, it's food and beverage, it's real estate. So some of those classic sort of inflationary bond proxies, but they're up almost 2% on the day.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like a tortured trade, I got to say, on this Friday. Let's get to some of the gainers. We've been highlighting them throughout the day, and that has those U.S.-listed Chinese companies that trade in the United States. That Bloomberg News scoop that talked about Chinese authorities getting ready to basically give U.S. regulators full access to auditing reports of the majority of the 200-plus companies that are Chinese that are listed in the U.S. So they are among your top performers in the NASDAQ 100. NetEase up almost 7%, off its highs of the days, but nonetheless a 7% gain. Baidu, again, up about 9.5% at its highs, finishing the day with almost a 7% gain. So really some outperformance among those names. And I did want to mention, because we all could use a little chicken soup for the soul on this Friday, and after quite a quarter and quite a week, that stock, ticker is CSSE, up 44% today. And this is, as B. Riley says, the streaming video company's initial full-year guidance topped consensus expectations. And so some optimism. I should point out it's a pretty significant short, about 16% afloat. So maybe there was a little bit of short covering, but nonetheless, a little chicken soup for everybody.
Yeah, we all need that on this Friday afternoon. Hey, let's check the decliners right now. What's that, Romaine?
What?
With the soda on the side.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Maybe a beer in a couple hours. Let's talk about JB Hunt. The Dow Jones Transportation Average slumping 4.7% today, the most since June of 2020. JB Hunt in there, and one of those that took a hit today. The trucking company having its worst day since October of 2020, falling to levels last seen in October of 2021. Higher fuel prices, rising inflation, Fed policy removing liquidity, all among the risks that Stevens analyst Jack Atkins sees.
I found this sell-off interesting. I mean, it wasn't just JB Hunt, but you talk about Old Dominion, Norfolk Southern, Union Pacific, CH Industries. Like all of these freight stocks just sold off all of a sudden. Was there a real catalyst?
The only catalyst I found was Stevens analyst Jack Atkins' comments. Nothing else there. Yeah. So, yeah.
How'd they do in the first quarter?
I don't know off the top of my head, Carol. You know. Romaine, do you know?
Not yet.
Okay. Romaine's going to look it up on the terminal while I go and talk a little bit about Apple. Shares finishing the day down by about 0.2%. It fell after being removed from JP Morgan's analyst focus list. The firm cited a pullback in consumer spending. Also, it's Apple's birthday today. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak founded what was then known as Apple Computer as a business. And Rivian falling 7.5% on the day. The company in a filing yesterday saying that Russia's invasion of Ukraine adding to supply chain pressures, costs, and blaming the dispute and the pandemic and inflation for, quote, disruptions to and delays in operations. 7.5% lower today.
Take it on over, Tim, as you talk about sort of the equity market folded over, do cross asset for us as we typically do, and take a look at the bond space. And I'll just, again, you guys point to the front end of the yield curve. It has just been a relentless move higher. This is on the week. 2-year yields, Gina, you're up 18 basis points on the day. Exactly 4 weeks ago, that 2-year yield was a 147. We are now at a 245. So you're looking at a 98 basis point move in just 4 weeks alone. Really incredible when we think about rate of change. And then, of course, the repricing, Gina, as we think about your world of equities.
Well, and you think about what the Fed has done. The Fed has had this vicious turn to a significantly more hawkish state as well. And I think that's getting reflected in both markets. The 2-year yield is the basic benchmark that we use for the valuation for the S&P 500. So as the 2-year yield goes higher, that much more pressure gets put on things like economic growth, broader employment conditions, wage growth to really make up for the bulk of the outlook for the equity market, because you can't count on valuations when yields are rising.
Yeah, and you've got the 210, the 510, the 530 all inverted here. I'm curious, though, when you look at the real yield, remember the 10-year real yield, which we talked so much about? I mean, we did start to see a little bit of a steepening there, but that's still negative.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we have to wait for that to maybe get a little bit closer to the waterline and even turn positive before we should start worrying.
Typically you do. Typically you don't even worry about the equity market at large until real rates are in positive territory. But clearly this year's been different on a number of fronts. I mean, stocks fell 15% from their peak to trough. So I think the market is definitely very nervous about the volatility that has emerged in the rates market over the course of the last few months.
And we talk about the price of pizza. The real inversion out there right now is the pizza to Metro card curve.
Yeah, but Tim, I mean, should we tell Romaine about the real asset price that we're following today?
Yeah, we did something special for him a little earlier in the day.
So, Romaine, as April Fools, the terminal has allowed you to mint your own NFT. We have minted an NFT for you. You actually did pretty well. You're up 5.5% on the day.
Okay,
that's pretty good.
And you
That's better than
started your
mine.
value at about $38,000. You gained
Wonderful.
$2,000 on the day.
Okay, thanks. So where does all this money? Is Tim just pockets the cash on this?
I wish. I mean, I've gained 3.4%, so cool, $2,400 so far.
He's outperforming you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that was a shot across the bow,
When
Romaine.
do you guys do this? When do you have time to do this? Is there a meeting
secret.
that I missed?
Yes, it's a secret. We'll never tell.
Unbelievable. Pizza Principle. Let's talk about it, because this is one of the most read stories on the Bloomberg. Pizza prices, right? You talked about this, Romaine.
Yeah.
About pizzas in the price of pizza in New York and the cost of a metro or a trip on the subway, right? They've been in tandem, and now we're seeing some disconnect, that pizza prices are getting more expensive. This has been decades in New York City in terms of New York City economics.
Can I just say, I love Bloomberg, because I love how they sort of take, I guess, these sort of rather pedestrian things and use them as a way to kind of illustrate what's going on with the economy, whether it's the pizza principle or the Pret Index that they use to kind of track people going back to work. Or a lot of really creative people here who I think find ways to kind of show what's really going on with the economy.
Yeah, this one I think a little bit skewed by the fiscal support for the MTA and the billions of dollars in bailout that that the MTA got and saying that it would freeze price increases as a
How
result.
has the MTA used that money? Have they put it to good use?
Subway still takes me quite a while to get home. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rode the subway the other day.
And
I ride it every day.
It was, it was interesting.
Yeah, some days are better than others.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're watching this outside of New York, though,
interesting.
come visit us.
Yeah.
Ride the subway.
the city is open, and pizza's a little bit more expensive than
Or
it
just
used
walk.
to be.
Yeah, you can walk off that pizza.
All right. There you go. It's been quite a week.
What does Carol put on our pizza? You think she's pepperoni?
I know what she puts on. Eggplant. She told us earlier.
Double dose of eggplant,
Yeah.
and the crust has to be well done.
Do you guys call it cheese
Look at his
pizza, or
face.
is it a plain slice, or is it a regular slice, or
What
is
do
it
you
a
call
cheese
it?
slice?
I don't know. Gosh.
Tim,
I'm
in
still-
Cali, we do it right. Tim and I just call it regular cheese.
Oh,
right?
I just call it cheese. Yeah.
Cheese
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah.
Cheese
Yeah.
pizza.
The Californians know what's up.
California.
Exactly. That's
yeah,
what I'm
you
talking
guys
about,
really
Taylor.
know.
We
You
got her
do that
NFTs
weird
too.
deep dish in
Right.
Chicago, Romaine.
Don't you diss dish.
Oh.
Don't.
Oh
Fine
my God,
words.
can you tell it's a Friday? It's a Friday. All right, we got to run, guys. That's going to do it for our cross-platform coverage on TV, on radio, and YouTube. Beyond the Bell. Catch us again, same time, same place on Monday. Have a good weekend.